Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for having me today, and also thank you for to Fredia from the Digital Divide to collaborate with us. Going to share my screen. Please let me know if you cannot see it. The event we were discussing today is about countering dyslexia adverse effect with large language models, and we will going to discuss them a little bit. I have always an introduction slide about policies, rules, and I mean this is a virtual event, and we need to familiarize with the tools that we're using. So first of all, I have a very strong accent. I have a tendency to speak incredibly fast. Don't hesitate if I start speaking too fast and everything doesn't make any sense. Also because I'm dyslexic, I'm going to be able to mix things up. So maybe I'm saying the opposite things of what I want to say. So don't hesitate to ask me to slow down. As I was saying, also I'm dyslexic, so I may put some typos, I may change words or letters. If you see any of those, let me know. Don't need to block the flow of the conversation. But yeah, we worry that I probably going to be making some of these mistakes. Uh, Let me know if something is not clear or something needs confirmation. Questions and comments are allowed. We're going to suggest to put them in the Q&A session in Zoom. Basically, everybody should be able to see this. It's a kind of two dialogue together with a Q&A together, and you should be able to put the questions. I will be doing few stops during the presentation so we can come back to them and doesn't break the flow. I uh, Simon, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume I think what we spoke is that the recording and the slide will be shared at the branch after the event. I think we normally do that, and I assume that you are doing that too.
Yes, that's correct.
Good. So now to start, I mean, we will come back to agenda a little bit later. We're going to the main objective of the talk today is about all this new AI technology, all this generative AI technology, how that can help people that are in the neurodiverse spectrum. In this case, is focused to dyslexia, which is something that I have. I have this link to Slido so we can do it a little bit more interactive. I'm going to share it from the actual Slido so everybody can answer. So I'm going to start sharing it now. The question. This is just a quick question to see how familiar is people with dyslexia and how many people are interacting with people that have dyslexia during the life. Unfortunately, it seems that, well, not yet. I have a slider here, so the question might not be as visible, but anyone can scan the QD code that is at the top of the, yeah, at the top of the left corner. And with that, you will be able to answer. I'm going to give a couple of minutes and then, well, a couple of minutes, some time, and then we can move to answer to see the results. This is not an exam. I mean, there is not right or wrong, but it's just to have to start that conversation. How much aware are we in general of people that have these kind of conditions? Going to keep a couple of seconds to anyone. Just going to check the chat if anyone has any problem. Don't see anyone coming from, so I'm going to see if we can see the results. Right. So what we see in terms of results is that most of the cases we still this is still live, but we still that in most of the cases, most of the people that we know because they are friends and family, and maybe because we can have that uh, trust relationship and that familiarity to be able to discuss and to talk with them, though, so they can open up. We start finding why it's really interesting that people find in other areas as well. I think that's really interesting. Going to stop the poll for now, and I just going to go back to the presentation. Right. So one of so I have the citations of where I got the information. This is from the NHS, and one in every 10 adults, well, one in every 10 people in the UK have some degree of dyslexia. So that's quite, I think that's a quite high number. So this was the original chart, and we see that at least everybody here seems to be familiar, or everybody that answer was familiar, at least with people having dyslexia. Just going to continue the talk. First, I'm going to be talking a little bit about me. As Simon was expressing before, I not my day-to-day job is not directly with neuroscience, so I'm not expert on neuroscience. I have some background, and I will discuss a little bit more with AI. I not actively work with generative AI, which is what it is, but I have been forming some kind of opinion. And as a dyslexic, as a someone that has lived in their own skin, I was finding a couple of things that were helpful for me, and I want to share it with a wider society. I will discuss a little bit about what is dyslexia. I will discuss a little bit about what is the uh, LLS, which is this new technology that we are using. I think that can make a huge difference in terms of dyslexia, and then the method that I was discussing that I thought could be introduced, and then we can have a few final remarks. Uh, just going to check. I don't see that we have any open questions, so I'm just going to continue. So this is a picture of me. I have included a few pictures as person. I'm someone that you probably, if you see me, you will always see me wearing a suit. Doesn't matter if I painting. I also like to do watercolors, and I do watercolors with a full suit, 3 pieces, or almost 4 pieces in this case. And even when I was doing gardening, this is a volunteering gardening, I was also wearing a kind of a suit. A part of that, I do watercolors, as I was saying. These 2 pieces of watercolors, this is Coley Road, as we are in the Oxfordshire branch. I wanted to bring one of the streets of Oxford, and I used to live in Oxford, and that was at the house of a friend of mine, and I did that as a painting. And this other one is where I live. Don't live anymore in Oxfordshire, but I don't live far from where the races between Oxford and Cambridge happen. So I thought, well, I have this painting here, and I thought could have some kind of linkage. As I was discussing, I'm not a researcher, not expert in neuroscience. The talk that I present today, the views that I present today, I presented as someone who is a divergent, neurodivergent. I'm dyslexic. I have lived with that in my own skin for a long time. I'm enthusiast. I'm not a researcher and I'm not expert on neuroscience, but I'm enthusiastic about both neuroscience and artificial intelligence. I did study actually artificial intelligence in my first postgraduate back in Spain. My career focus is on consulting. My role in the BCS is more close to consulting, not AI, but I still been an enthusiast. I have my degree and I do part of things that are related with artificial intelligence. And lastly, I mean, my objective, the things, my motivation as a BCS member is trying to make IT good for ID, for society. IT good, yeah, IT good for society. Uh, So yeah, when I say some of the things that I'm going to be saying, I just have this thing here of tracking. Not, I'm a doctor, so basically, I'm not a researcher, so everything that I may say, feel free to challenge and to question it, and I really open any anyone that want to challenge my point. The goals of this meeting, I want to share what I found helpful regarding these new technologies, and I hope that that could help others. I seek also to find more collaboration, trying to validate my approach, my work for me, but it might not work for everybody. So yeah, anything that help me to get feedback and improve the method, I would love to hear from anyone. And then also I would like to seek collaboration in the sense of, yeah, trying to find ways to, these are other methods that could be valuable and related into this interjection between generative AI or new AI or even just AI and dyslexia or any other parts of the neurodivergent spectrum. I would be happy to try to help people if I can. I see one note in the chat. Yeah, thank you, Freddy. The first thing that I want to comment is dyslexia. Probably everybody was commenting that you know somewhat people that are affected. I put one of the main cases that more example, more clear example is you want to write something like D, and instead you write the letters in a different order. The problem is that you think that you wrote it right. The good thing today is that Word and most of the write it tools are already corrected for you. When you do it, I mean, some people have been describing. I have been using this. This can be quite annoying, but also probably helps you to sympathize with my case. And it's like let the letters dance to you when you see the letters, or some of the letters dance. You see one thing and the other. Some of the common errors that you have it when you are writing or reading is that you displace words or letters. So the common more common case for me, or one of the more common example, is instead of writing da, you write eht. I also write many times the same word repeatedly and I'm not even aware that I have been reading it repeatedly. And one other common example is that, for example, I read the same line. So I read in a line and then I move to the next line, but I don't move to the next line. Move to the same line. So I struggle with things like that. That is not only happening for me when I write, it also happens in verbal communication. Less, but it happens. So I may say, and I have said a couple of times, can you copy me the past, please, or something like that, mixing the object and the verb. Normally, all these have a very little repercussion. All of these have very little repercussion because you can understand what I mean. The only thing is the message. You know that there is a typo, but not always is at innocuous because if I read the information wrong, if I read a 3 or if I read a 5 instead of reading a 2 or a 3, then when I try to provide the answer, is not going to be the right answer. So if I have a question, for example, can you calculate the area of the rectangular field? And if I misreading, and in this case I put the numbers wrong as if I were misreading. So for example, in that case, instead of being a 2, it should be a 3. I would not be able to find the right answer. And then that's one thing that has happened to me many times. If I have an exam type test, this type, and then I have done the calculations, and I find that none of the answers that I have are the real one. And then I have to do the calculation again and say, okay, I read the numbers wrong. I may interchange instead of saying of reading 1 4 6, I read 6, and instead of reading 6 4, I'm reading for 6, which is what's happening in the second example. I just wrote a quote that I quite like. It's attributed to Albert Einstein, which is everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish for its ability to climb a tree, it will be always live the life thinking that is stupid. I'm reading very high level the comment from uh, Man Bicycle, and I think I'm going to put it, going to bring it up possibly later when I cover the technique. I bring one technique. I have been commenting. I have been seeing more techniques, and I'm happy to explore and to comment more. But I'm going to bring that a little bit later after I comment the technique or some of the ideas that I want to bring in. Good. I'm going to continue, and I describe here the problem. So one way that I like to, I'm going to go to the lady on the left in a second, but one way of also showing what the problem that I have is when we see all this neural network, we know that in many of these cases you can trick the neural networks. These are neural networks that classify objects or photos, and you just change a bit. You can see that this is a red dot over that. And instead of understanding that this is a cat, they think that it's a bath towel. So sometimes I feel that way because everybody sees obvious what they are reading, and I'm reading whatever and I read it wrong. And unless someone explicitly points out that to me, I won't be able to see that mistake. Um, Going to come back. I mean, that's I have the sources below, and that's how this how I feel sometimes. And this at the left is she's actually a neuroscientist. It's Lisa Feldman Barrett in one of her books, and I have the reference below. She talks about that brain actually what does all the time is doing predictions, and it's not like we are really having a, if we were using our system with sensory system to perceive the world and then move that to the brain, that will consume a lot of energy from the brain, and that will be ineffective. That will be really tiresome. So what she suggests is that the brain has predictions. It thinks what is going to go, and when it see that the prediction doesn't match, it makes the correction. And what I feel is, in my case, I do the prediction wrong, and the brain doesn't do the adjustment. So yeah, that's the note from her. And here I have a second note. Going to yeah, I'm going to open this again. So and I'm going to go to the second poll, and I'm going to no, hold on. I think I'm doing something wrong. Okay, where is dyslexia multi-disruptive? I think this might be an open question. Uh, yeah, this.
Antonio, this is an open question, and we're asked to type in
All
a
right.
word.
Okay, thank you. Just going to give a couple of minutes.
Antonio, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was. Yeah, I was saying, thank you very much for the answers. What I will do is I will bring that answers, I will put them together in the slide deck and share it. They will be present in the video, and I will share that later. Basically, the main idea is to try to understand what are the areas where we can really make a difference. Here I was discussing, and probably I will put that brings together. When you are doing in at the work space, can introduce noise in the communication, and that can cause problems when, as we were saying, writing, reading instructions, appointments. We have techniques to we in computer science. We have technique to remove noise from the channel. We can use redundancy, and we can have a hash fusion to help to improve the noise and errors. However, this has a limitation. I mean, this works quite well with, for example, we have a check speller and things like that. We run the spell check. We normally can remove most of these errors. There is a limitation, and is when you are doing the dyslexia, when you have the dyslexia, if you make an error, which is a syntactic or grammatic error, like adding an additional repetitive word, or to change the order of the letters, in many cases they don't affect the meaning. In other cases, it actually affects the meaning. If you change the word, the W for a T in the word now, you get a not, and it's completely different, this meaning of the sentence. So unless we have an effective way to have a hash of what we want to say, what is inside of our mind, or what is the meaning, we are not going to be able to address properly uh, this semantic problem. So was commenting on that. One of the results that we have is that in many cases the individual gets frustrated and disengaged because of the problems communicating, both sending information and bringing back information. Yeah, so the mutes. I will come back to that. So now I'm going to be talking about generative AI and large language models. I'm going to make it somewhat quick, I hope, but I'm going to start with Shannon. I mean, probably for all of us, one of the main fathers of computer science is Turing, but I'm going to go back in time a little bit further, and I'm going to talk Shannon. Shannon was describing also the information theory, is the father of the information theory, and we can see how they describe all these information sources. And with these information sources, we can have things like methods to describe how we can make a channel more resilient to noise. One of what we have at the left, I think, is the DeepHealth one dictionary, which is one of the common compressions mechanism. And basically, the idea is that if you have a long string, you can start predicting what are, because if you have enough text or enough information from an information source, what you can do is you can analyze what is the frequency of the words. You create a dictionary, and you replace that each word by the words that are more frequent, for the words that for the tokens, or for the codes that are smaller. In that way, you're going to have a smaller message. Why this is relevant for us? Because what we start doing is we started building a model of how we can predict words. And in a model where we can predict always the next word, it's like a perfect model where we could be, and it's basically what it ended up doing these LLMs. They built a very large model, and before jumping into that, I'm just going to make another stop, which is the phone. When we write with our phones, we have the predictive keyboard, and they always are predicting which one is going to be the next word. What is a language model system? It's a model that can predict language so good that when you type a couple of words, it can predict what is going to be said in a reliable way after that. So basically, the way that they have been doing that is by entering tons of literature, of encyclopedia, of information into these models, so they can predict what is the relationship between words. Uh, I think maybe I went a little bit fast on this one. I'm happy to review this maybe later, so I'm just going to leave it there. I quite like this area, and perhaps I went a little bit too fast. The the next bit, there are some practical, very direct uses, so we can correct text and do proofreading. So basically, if we have a text from someone like me that has dyslexia and we throw it to the LMS, we can say, can you correct it and put it in proper English? And they will make the corrections because they are quite good at manipulating language. They have the language model, so they know how the language, how it should look in terms of language. There are things that they are not good at all. There's LMS, which are, for example, maths. They were doing really poor uh, performance. They were really good at providing information of things, but they were fantasizing. They were creating fantasies. They what they are answering is not necessarily true. It's good from a language perspective, but it's not necessarily true. And in terms of logic, they are not doing as well as other information system information technologies. My realization, or the way that I wanted to, the one that my eureka moment, or the thing that hinted to me, because if you use it, as I was saying here, I mean, two very practical uses that you have is correcting and proofreading. So if you are writing, you can send it for correction and also for proofreading, and with both things, you will be able to say, okay, my text, it looks more what I want it to look, is has the right meaning, and it has corrected the words that I have make mistakes and typos. I bring, this is Picasso, and that's one of his paintings that you can more or less recognize him. So when it's attributed to him that when someone asked him that computers and AI were going to be able to answer anything, he was saying, well, that's not seems to be a lot. I mean, the interesting thing is not giving answers. The interesting thing is giving the questions. Oh, well, that's actually the quote that he had. But the interesting thing is ChatGPT can also be used to get questions and also to question my answers, which is a good thing. So that was more or less my revelation part, which is, can I use ChatGPT actually not only to, I mean, if I see that I ask something to ChatGPT and it answered something completely irrelevant, what I can understand is that what I asking can be improved in a way that I can be more clear. I can detect, it can help me to detect when I'm not using a good language. So also, can I ask ChatGPT, go back and say, and I'm going to say ChatGPT now. I mean, this is probably the most common example, but it's one of the language model. I can help to go back and understand where I'm making the mistake. So that was more or less the what kicked my reasoning. So as dyslexia often people, not only machine, misinterpret my questions. So maybe using algorithm like ChatGPT to make sure that I can my message get across in a clear way. So the method, as I was saying, my goal in this case is trying to detect and remove the noise that my typos and my dyslexia introduce in my communications. We have the cases where a spell checker of proofreading can be done quite well with writing. In terms of reading, a spell checker is not going to help you. If you read something wrong, you're going to be reading wrong. But what other techniques can we talk? And I'm just going to go a little bit more into the topic. We are all familiar probably with the idea of the checksum. So if we have a message and we have a summary of the message at the end, we can know if the message, the meaning has changed. And as I was saying before, if we change something that is meaningful, uh, well, the checks, it may not change the meaning. We can tolerate it, but if change something meaningful, then is when we're going to have the problem. Now, the biggest problem is in terms of semantics, and that's open can of worms. Because of that, going to bring it a little bit later. So what I want to use is the ChatGPT or any other elements to try to correct text and also to help me to understand when I'm reading. So it's both cases. I'm going to continue into the next slide, and this is when I went what I meaning that I open a can. Um, yeah. The when I said that kind of worm, this person at the right is David Chalmers, is reputed, I would say, philosopher. I think he's Australian. He was talking when we start talking if machines can manage meaning. That's the problem that we have is that we start touching fields like philosophy, and that's not where we want to play because then it's going to be a really hard conversation for us. One of the things that he's famous for is for stated or for commenting on the problem of the philosophical zombie, which is what's happening if we have an entity that is exactly like a human being, can, but he doesn't have a genuine first person experiences. He behaves in a stochastic way. He is able to react in an stochastic way. He has this probabilistic model and he will react in a way that for us is going to be convincing, but internally is it doesn't handle meaning. So that is one of the problems. I mean, we're going to start dealing with philosophy if we want to start talking about if machines can help us with meaning. And what I did is I went to another philosopher, which is Wittgenstein, and basically what he started talking is the meaning and the use. It depends on the language. So basically, what I'm trying to use, I use these two philosophers to counter each with the other one, and basically the idea is that because we have models of the language, may doesn't matter that much whether we are capturing or matching capture the meaning, the language or the meanings in the language, and we have tools that are able to manipulate language. So we could use these machines to actually manipulate that meaning through the language. The methods that I propose something for writing and something for reading. Probably if you are familiar with ChatGPT or I have mentioned before, one of the ways that helps a lot is just can you ask ChatGPT to make the right correction so the article or the text is written in proper English if you want to write, or in the case, but what I also bring is I want to bring this idea of the summary of the hash. So in normal communications, we have a way, a straight way, which is if we have a hash in the communications, we can check if there is any errors in the meaning. So here we going to suggest, or I'm going to suggest something similar, which is if we want to write a test or to read a test, one way is we can put that test through ChatGPT and say, can you make a summary, a short summary of what that text says? And in fact, if not only one summary, can you do it? Not one, but can you do three summaries? And when you have these three summaries, you can quickly read through them. You don't need to be very careful because you have three different summaries saying the same. And if you see that they are not saying the same, or when you and then you read their actual test, and if you see that what you are reading doesn't make sense, or it's not alienated with the three, you know that there is a mistake somewhere. So in that case, it's going to be easier for you at least to detect where is the error. The other idea that I was advocating is when you're writing, and again, I mean, on the one hand, you can ask to correct the test, but also will be good, it depends how much effort you want to spend, to ask for a few summaries about what you have written. And when you see the summaries from the tool, you can see if the tool has understood what you wanted well. And if the tool has been understood, it is because you have been clear. If the tool understood it wrong, you might have been clear, but you could be more clear. Or at least is how I take it. It has some limitations. The main limitation that you're going to have is this is going to slow you down even more. So I'm incredibly slow when I'm writing, and also I'm slow when I'm reading. So if you have to write or read a few summaries in addition to that, that's going to slow you down a lot. When I talk about dyslexia, I also have this calculus, so I read numbers wrong, and I may do typos in calculations. Normally, I handle most of that with spreadsheet, and I assume that Wolf and Alpha could work also good as well. Um, there are certain limitations for LMSs. You might be clear on what you are saying, but because what you are discussing might not be seen political correct, or if you want to talk about something that is not political correct, uh, ChatGPT or any other LMS might decide to ignore you. So you might be thinking, so yes, they are scenarios where that not be working. However, it's a tool that can help to remove that. At least was has been in occasions where it has been a frustration when I'm trying to say something and I don't see my message coming across the way that I understand it. This get me almost to the end, so I have that me again and the slides. So the objective that I had here was to set this, get feedback on what I'm doing, feedback for improvement of the method, further adoption. I think that's my last slide. I have some comments on some reference, especially to the books that I was talking, and that's myself. I see that we have at least one question. I'm happy to comment. Also, I think it was really interesting question because we can really see what other tools I have been investigating further. I didn't have mentioned everything that I know as techniques, but I'm happy to open the discussion for that. Before we open that discussions, I just want to say thanks again, and just to see if anyone has any additional questions. I see a question from Mind Bicycle. Um, I'm just going to read the last bit. Paid and free models. What's understanding that the paid free models, especially ChatGPT, new announcements and the different paid and free models, especially enterprise ChatGPT. So I'm just going to jump in. Please, anyone, if they want to add anything, I'm really happy to take it. At the moment, you can have, I would say, ChatGPT. You have three options. You have the free option where you can talk with it. You can ask for almost everything. I think they're going to expand it to GPT 4.0, which seems to be much better model of what it has been used until now. Until very recently, and in most of the cases, you are using in the free version the ChatGPT 3.5, and it's challenging. It can do quite a lot of things. It can manipulate language. But it has quite a lot of limitations depending on what you want to do. For the purposes of what I suggest here, it's quite good. It really passed the mark. If you want to do other things, I know, especially if you want, there are other things that could be interesting if you are in this spectrum. Could be dyslexia, or it could be other things. One of the things that can be really helpful for example, well, in other cases or in dyslexias as well, is you can ask if you receive a message or a test, you can ask, can you ChatGPT give me a summary in bullet points? And that might be easier to read. If you do it with the free version or with the one that has been free version with the 3.5, the performance of that, the kind of summary that gets you, is not always the best. The other thing that can be incredibly helpful is if you are writing an email, or even when you are writing. So if you are writing an email, you can have this translated into a way that is more bullet point, so you can go straight to the point. If you are writing and you are falling, that's not for dyslexic, but maybe if you have problem to communicate in a more emotional or in a more that can be applied because you want to use the best of your interpersonal skills, but some people may have some challenges with that. So you can ask ChatGPT to incorporate some of these interpersonal skills inside of the email. So you can write the email, and you can do it as you would be doing, straight to the point, and then you can ask ChatGPT to bring that bit. Now, I have been talking about this premium, which is the 4.0, and then the other one, which is the 3.5. There is now another thing that is different, which is the enterprise. And when you use tools, free tools, or openly available tools, you are putting your data into the possession of these companies. These companies, this data, in most of the cases, don't use it, or they don't have ways that humans can access to it. They may not, or you might even remove the data as it is, but it's very possible that the model learn something from you. This open a risk, and because you are opening a risk of the model making learning something about you that can reproduce later on, there is a risk that you may not want to say something with this open system. So therefore, you may want to go into, instead of the global options, you want to have an option where it's not learning that, or even if it's learning, it's not sharing that outside of the conversation that it has with you. I saw. Yeah,
You've got a couple. You've got another
Oh, yeah.
question from Bryony
Oh,
at
brilliant.
the moment, which has got a follow up to clarify.
Good.
So do you want
I'm
me to
reading the
read them,
question.
Antonio, or
Yeah,
is
yeah, please.
it better? So Bryony says, I've been testing Microsoft Copilot. I found it very helpful as a dyslexic, as it can usually tell what I'm asking, even when spelling, etc., is poor. It helps with drafting documents and emails. From the work side, it's good as it protects my data better than ChatGPT does. And then she says she meant to add, are there any other AI products that you found easier to use than others?
Right. I still, my personal view is that all these tools are in a really early stages. We have Copilot that seems, well, Microsoft is behind it, and I think they're going to be doing a great job. ChatGPT is just have the interface, so probably it's much better the option of using Copilot and seems more user friendly. Google has their own option, which is Gemini, and is bringing now to the tool. And there are a few other tools that also helps. Um, I need to do a summary of all the different tools that we have, because there are even companies that are focused on trying to produce software for this. But yeah, I mean, at high level, the the most common tools I would say, yeah, Copilot, which also, I mean, I think I was writing before. I mean, I don't think that we're going to be too far in the future when Microsoft integrates this directly into the suite, into the Office suite, and we have it directly in Microsoft or in the Outlook. And I really look forward when that happens. I don't know when it will be, but I assume that it's not going to be too long to have something like that. So I think we are still in early phases. Copilot seems to be a really good option, and I will advise anyone to keep trying the other ones. Google is going to be a strong contender, so Gemini seems to be a really Gemini. Yeah, so one difference between Gemini and ChatGPT is Gemini. So basically, you have a context of what the machine is considering from the what you are talking with the machine. Gemini has far more context than ChatGPT, and that's something that can brings a lot of value because it feels sometimes that you talk with ChatGPT and is forgetting things, and you have to repeat it. And there is a moment where it cannot go farther ahead.
Okay. So then we have a question from Ashok saying, can AI be used to help with diagnosing dyslexia?
I'm not going to. I mean, I know that there are tools, and I know that there are work and papers focus on that. That they think that AI, because it's a language, they can recognize models and they can recognize patterns. One of the applications is going to be recognizing dyslexia. Uh, I would like to take a note because I have been reading a couple of papers related that, and I can put it in the I can send it after the meeting.
Right. I'm just looking. There are a few comments coming through on the chat as well as in the Q&A, but there is a comment on from Mind Bicycle on the Q&A saying a top tip for an accessible feature on the ChatGPT app is that you can hold down the text and it will speak back.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are many different integrations, and yeah, I think for me the massive difference of these new technologies is that they reduce a lot of entry barriers in many aspects. One of them is, for example, and I was watching, I think today, a summary of what they are bringing with ChatGPT, and is not based on text anymore. It's you can do it by voice, and that's going to be incredibly inclusive, not only for people that have challenges in writing or reading, but for people that don't know how to write or read, and they will be a lot, or people that are using technologies in different other languages. So yeah, the text to speech seems to be this seems to be moving really fast, and I'm really eager to test the new capabilities. And thank you for the top tip, mine's bicycle.
There are one or two other tips coming up in the chat, which I'll just briefly mention. Which one is that there are a couple of additional tools worth looking at, which are Perplexity and the Brave browser search also has a useful summary function, and yeah, ChatGPT also allows you to communicate fully using voice. Is another comment that's come through. I was just wondering whether, from my point of view, if you turn it round, is there anything that AI can help people like me to work with people who are dyslexic? Is there anything that I can be doing to help with that work?
Yeah. So that's so there are I have been looking a little further, and that's the other thing that can be used. So you can ask ChatGPT maybe for dyslexia. It has you can ask advice and all that. I don't know how far you can go, but it can be used a lot for other kind of in the neurodivergence spectrum. You can have for running social test kind of or social conversation where you can be testing, you can ask for this kind of advice and try to play that with the machine as if the machine is a human. ChatGPT doesn't get offended. You can be saying things, but it can give you the feedback. So sometimes it's can be for this sandbox can be quite interesting. So thank you for bringing that too.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If there are, can you add them to the Q&A, please? I'll give a couple of minutes to think about it. Okay, so I'm getting it. Got one in the chat, so I'll just go to that. So the question here is, how does this align with ensuring that as a person you do not end up de-skilling yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because I think thank you very much for bringing up there are few skills that are really powerful to have, and they are important to have. And I think ChatGPT is going to be great because it's going to demand people to have these skills. If you use ChatGPT, it's very important that you have critical thinking. You you shall not trust anything that it says, because in most of the cases it's just fabricating things that are not really correct. So when you use ChatGPT, it's important to check the sources, have some critical thinking, and to challenge if what it's saying is actually true. So it's true that in many cases we're going to lose skills, or many of the skills, in many different fields. Maybe in other cases we might be able to improve it because it's going to give us positive examples and with enough repetition that can help. But most importantly, I really think that the new generation, the native generation, I mean, ChatGPT is something foreign for us, but for the people that is young enough, they won't, at some point there will be people that won't know a world without ChatGPT. These people, they are going to be similar to this generation, that they don't know a world without Google. And when they have any questions, they Google it. And when you Google it, you check your sources. So this generation do that automatically. They don't trust. Well, that's what I want to believe, at least. This new generation, the native generation, at some point, I mean, they will learn that whatever ChatGPT gives you is not to trust. So they will start, I hopefully, doing and practicing that skill that doesn't do, which is the critical thinking. So hopefully, what we will have is more people practicing this critical thinking. That doesn't make sense. Does anyone has a different view in terms this kind?
Well, I would certainly have I'd be very much in agreement with you that there will be some cases where AI and generative AI will actually replace jobs and work that other people do, but there are a whole set of new skills coming in that people will need to learn as to how to use these tools in the right way. And I think that there's been a lot of focus on the negative aspects, such as in universities, as to how to not have people turning in essays that have been written by ChatGPT, and not enough focus on teaching students how to use the tools that are available in the right way. And that's been, I think it's because it's arrived very suddenly upon us that we've had to work out how to deal with it. I think there are opinions are changing, but that's my personal view. But we're getting some more questions and comments. There are some coming. So just picking up on the chat there, a question is, do we have a lag between generations? And someone saying something similar along the lines of, well, no, same person, as an educator, having to teach them to do decision making, working with these tools as a systems engineer. So, but is there a lag between generations, do you think, Antonio? Is it
Yeah,
easier for you to communicate with younger people, perhaps?
well, I don't know if it's easy for me to communicate with younger people, but if we sit a second and we see that we have people that, I mean, everybody here probably have had a lot of engagement with technology, but there are people still in the world that they never grow with a phone or with technologies, and they're still foreign to use internet and email and all this. And we have invited, or we have bring along the specialist group of the digital divide. There are generations that are native to this kind of information era, and there are still a lot of people that are not native, and some of them they struggle, some of them struggle more. So I really think that there is a divide, but probably we have Freddie that could answer a little bit better that question.
I just we've got another question from Mind Bicycle. Does ChatGPT respond to positive reinforcement, good or bad prompts? And he says or they say, I've found that giving feedback on its work can direct a better outcome. And if you find a problem, feed it back to ChatGPT to drive a better result.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's more or less how I was working with my approach. But it's also what I do is do the opposite, try to have the feedback for myself. So I'm going to ask something to ChatGPT, and sometimes I'm going to get that the response is nothing like what I was asking. Is completely went somewhere different. So I will start why you are going that direction. I have been asking something different, and try to understand better where or what is going, giving the corrections, try to understand why, giving the results, and then bringing back and put all these prompt or all these questions together. That helps in both ways. It helps me to ask better or more clear questions, and it helps ChatGPT to understand better the direction that I want to get.
Okay. Thank you. Right, so I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. So unless something comes through very quickly now, I'm seeing comments giving thanks, which is what I think would be most appropriate to do at this point. Antonio, thank you very much for an extremely interesting presentation and a lot to think about there. I think personally, I think you're onto something here. I think, as I said, this is an example of a positive use of the new technology and the opportunities that generative AI bring to us. And it's also very much in line with the BCS aim of making IT good for society. So thank you for presenting that to us. Thank you for answering the questions. We will put all of this onto our website, but I'd like to say thank you to Antonio in the usual way. But obviously not everybody can do it, so I'm giving you the applause on everybody else's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and I really appreciate thank you everybody. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, Antonio.
Pleasure.